base platform, and then you build based on regional requirements or demands. I mean, it just adds to the complexity of how we design and produce, is what I'm saying.
Ms. Buchanan.
So I'm trying to understand. You have the one TV on the list, the 11-inch, which I assume is the one to which you were referring.
I think there's 8. They list as Tier 2 compliant, right?
Right. So, but you have Samsung, which is always one of the most highly rated TVs when you go to consumer guides, and JVC, Sharp, Toshiba, all these others. So where are you then in, I mean, if you're talking about voluntary reduction of energy use, where is Sony then in terms of, not needing regulations but meeting these on a voluntary basis?
Well, if you look at Tier 1 compliance, we're probably 100% compliant with our Tier 1 models. In 2009, each year, obviously, and people talk about price, the erosion in this industry is
right.
massive.
Yeah.
It's a huge struggle anyway. But from a Tier 2 compliance standpoint, that data isn't quite accurate, as was mentioned earlier, meaning 300 were compliant, but we didn't take into the power factor or luminance, which actually Sony helped the CEC in establishing the proper metrics for measuring that. So, I mean, I think that isn't an accurate measure of who actually or what TVs actually meet the standard. So.
Very good. Members, any additional questions? If not, I'd like to thank the panel for their presentation. We went a little bit longer than like we did on every other panel. This one may have been the longest. But thank you very much for your cooperation and being here today, and we look forward to your information that you're going to share with the CEC. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and take public comment at this point. If we can go ahead, Sergeant, and position folks there standing, we're going to allow folks about a minute or so to state their name, who they represent, and whether they're for or against the regulation, and then a very, very, very brief statement.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Swanson.
I'm going to have to leave. I'm teaching a class at the Baptist Seminary of the West this evening on ethics, Mr. Verline. And I'm going to, but I will promise that I'll review the tape. And I think this has been a very important hearing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Swanson. Members, any additional comments before we go to public comment? I know that some folks have got to hit the road, but I would like just to extend my appreciation, one, to all of the panelists who were involved here today in this very, very interesting and important issue on energy efficiency, and also to my colleagues for making the trek to Sacramento and being here with us today. This is the interim, as I pointed out at the beginning, and also very rare to have this much participation on an informational hearing. So I want to thank my colleagues and certainly the staff for all of their hard work for getting folks here. So with that, sir, your name, who you are, who do you represent, and your position on the proposed regulation.
My name is Pete Papanastis. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Imagine Designs in San Jose, California, and I'm for the proposition. I think I'm speaking loud enough. I just want to give you one bit of information. I'm going to make it really quick. Last week I did it in 4.5 minutes. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but this is the light that gets through the panel. You see how much is blocked? The reason is there's electronic circuits in between the light and the viewer. Most people don't understand that. That's 5% of the light gets through. The reason you have the power, so much power, is you've got to push the light out. So the problem is this panel blocks the light. Our company designs a technology that eliminates that. We have a report. It's 55% cheaper with our technology. This isn't a commercial. This is telling you that there's technology available that can be produced in 2 years to reduce the energy consumption by 80%. The standard is way higher than what we need. Okay, so I'm an electrical engineer. I was a cohort of Dr. Deming. I was Vice President of Quality at companies like Sun Microsystems, Tandem Computers, Pyramid Technology, and I have just 3 or 4 comments about some of the things that were said today.
Very quickly, sir.
First of all, The state of California leads the world in energy management. Don't follow the federal government. It'll take forever. This group is doing a great job. We're the only state that has zero increase. Just real quick. Plasma TVs are history. Don't worry about them. All TVs are not designed the same way. The reason some TVs burn more energy than others is some companies have better designers than others. I worked at computer companies for 40 years. I know the difference. It's not you can use the same thing. It's different circuits in every TV. That's why the power consumption is different.
Very good. Thank you for your comments. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next public comment.
One more thing. I think you need 4 years is too short a future to look into. You need to look into the future and reduce 10% per year.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Move out of the way.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. Bernadette Del Chiaro with Environment California, here in strong support of these regulations. We are talking about saving California families money. We're talking about significant clean air benefits and global warming benefits. We're talking about continuing California's leadership, and I just might add that our sister organizations and other sister states around the country are chomping at the bit to adopt these standards and to help continue the, not just spread the standards around the country, but continue to raise the profile for them and put pressure on the federal government to ultimately adopt them as well. And this is the sort of the tale of California leadership across the board in multiple examples. And then it goes hand in glove with California's clean energy and solar power goals and mandates. It would be irresponsible for California to mandate clean energy, mandate solar, provide incentives for solar roofs, for example, and not do everything in our power to also make our homes more energy efficient. These televisions are becoming the Hummer of the home, if you will. They are becoming the single largest source of electricity demand in the home, and we have to do something about it. Quick response to a couple other things. Industry absolutely should, as Assemblyman Fletcher pointed out, should be able to develop a bottom-up incremental cost estimate of what it would cost to make these TVs more efficient. They've been asked to do this time and again and have failed to do so. Two is the CEA has said that they're open to labeling, but actually have testified at the federal level opposed to in-store labeling, and they were completely vague, at least to my ears, as to whether or not they would be supportive of in-store physical labeling as opposed to internet labeling as well. Third is the standards being proposed are performance-based, not technology-based. There is no winner or loser. And to me, the internet seems somewhat of a hollow argument, the threat of the internet. What you might save in tax savings, the number one reason why people make purchases over the internet, you'd probably spend in shipping costs. A 46-inch TV weighs 60 pounds. I don't know about you, but I would actually go down to Best Buy, or maybe today after this I'd go to some other store. But I think most people are going to purchase their TVs in person and put them, bring them home or have the store ship them to their homes. Last but not least, efficiency is an incredibly popular clean energy solution. Poll after poll shows Californians support energy efficiency measures, even more so, surprisingly, than solar power. This is a no-brainer for California. It's about saving people money. And at the end of the day, we have to start to ratchet down our energy uses in our homes. Otherwise, we're going to start to lose all the savings we've gained over the past few years. Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Why don't we form a line here so we know how many folks are there, because I'm letting the clock run a little bit longer, assuming that there was only 2 people. So let's go ahead and form a line, and now I'm going to really be a little bit tighter on time. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Palumbo from the Plasma Display Coalition. Our members are some of the largest plasma manufacturers globally, but also some of the largest LCD manufacturers as well. One really key point I want to make, and I don't want to duplicate what anybody has said. Somebody said we may lose 10% of the sales in California, and that is true. We thought it would probably be somewhere about 20%, although PG&E in a testimony during December said our target is to take 25% of the television sets off the market. But the key point is, if you do take 10%, that's 400,000 units. That's billions of dollars of sales out of the California market. You can just calculate the tax problems, but the biggest problem that you have is those television sets that will come off the market will generally be the most fully featured and most latest technology products, because generally they do use a little bit more power. Those 400,000 TV sets are concentrated in your independent businessmen and also in the Magnolia stores of Best Buy. And you've heard the problems, you've heard the issues with internet. They are real. You're facing, if you regulate and if you end up taking these quantities off the market, a serious issue with business.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Jed Nelson, just an intern at Senator Steinberg's district office. As a consumer and avid game player, I'd like to see a regulation, but I'd like to see the CEC utilize its powers to set a maximum energy usage level plus externalities, and that the manufacturers would have to comply with relative to the screen size and still achieve an efficient standard. In this way, they can install some chips that will be fail-safe so it won't exceed a level, and in this way possibly use them to already do it to existing models so that Chairman Fuentes does not blow the streetlights. And as my concern as
it's very good for an intern.
As a consumer, I don't really want to concern myself with the knowledge of I'm going to be doing something great. I just want to know that what I'm buying is already doing something great.
Very good. Is that the position of Mr. Steinberg as well?
No.
Okay, very good. All right, just wanted to for the record. Very good. Go ahead, sir.
I'm Steve Yurchich, a senior partner with the McLaughlin Consulting Group, and I have a PhD in LCD manufacturing and cost of manufacturing. Our consulting group has done studies on both the light management films that 3M talked about, and we've found that there is a slight difference in going to the light management films, but you do save in the reduction of the CCFL lamps, the power supply inverters, and it comes out to be a $5 difference at the panel manufacturer, which at the street level translates into about $15 to $20 difference for a 3X markup. For LEDs, we've done studies on those, and LEDs for a 46-inch TV save you about 30% power and can meet Tier 2. They're currently running, last year they were running about $1,000 more expensive. This year I've looked at identical Samsung models in terms of features. For 40-inch, the LED is $200, $237 more. 46-inch, $300. Those costs are rapidly coming down. LEDs also have additional performance features, improving contrast. So what we find, and as well as Sony's point, they happen to choose a more expensive backlight technology, and that's why their costs are higher. Had they gone with some other approaches with films, other solutions, they would have been able to meet that. So in conclusion, we're in support of the standards, and we think they can be easily met even ahead of time, probably 6 months ahead of time.
Great, thank you. Next witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Darren Riemann, and I serve as Director of Public Policy for the Custom Electronic Design and Installation Association, or CEDIA. We're a professional trade association of member companies that design and install residential electronic systems in the home. We have over 450 members throughout California, and 285 of them are what we term electronic systems contractors, small independent retailers, and we rise in opposition and have concerns with the CEC proposals. We have members in each one of your districts. Some of our concerns are that our ESC members sell at 58 inches and below and above 58 inches. So technically this regulation, as currently written, would regulate our small independent members twice. And according to our benchmarking survey, distributed audio and media rooms represent 52% of revenue for our members. So flat panel displays are an integral part of our members' revenue, and we look forward to working with you on this important issue.
Great, thank you. Next witness.
Thank you for hearing us today. We really appreciate it. My name is Sean Worst. I'm with, I have a small business in San Diego, California, Evolution Home Theater. We employ 6 people. It's a very typical small business in the electronics installation type world. There's a lot of us out there, so when you hear me, you're really hearing the voices of a lot of other people just like me. The problem with this regulation, and we're very much against it, is that the television is our entry point into the customer's home. Customers don't call us and ask us for, hey, I want this new fancy lighting control that's going to save me some money on my energy use, or I don't want a new controller for my heater. They call us and say, hey, I want a new television. What can you do for us? So we go in, we meet with them, and we, as peripheral sales, we talk to them about all sorts of neat energy savings opportunities with lighting control systems, with different automation systems, with a good buy button where you hit one button and when you're leaving the house and all the lights in the house turn off, all the audio video turns off, the heating and air conditioning turns off. And there's a huge amount of energy savings that's coming from the installations that we do in customers' homes. And so our industry is really driving a lot of the energy savings that's out there. On the cover of the latest, most popular magazine in our industry, it's called CE Pro. On the cover was a huge push for people to do solar panel installations. So when you stifle our industry by limiting the number of televisions that we're going to be able to sell, by removing a percentage, whatever that percentage is, by removing a percentage of televisions from our shelves and forcing the consumer to buy elsewhere, which they will. You can't assume that consumers are stupid and are only going to buy what's out there. Consumers are really savvy, and they shop online, they look at everything, and if they can buy a television that performs better online, they will. And performance isn't just how much electricity it uses. Vizio is a great example of that. Vizio has a lesser expensive product, yes, but is lesser expensive always better? If lesser expensive was better, Mercedes-Benz wouldn't be in business. There's a lot of higher-end custom electronics companies out there. There's tons of them. Runco is a good example. That's a smaller company that produces very high-end televisions that there is a defined market for. What about outdoor use televisions where the brightness has to be turned up brighter because they're viewed outside? Those aren't going to meet the regulation. Right. People have talked a lot about Vizio as well. Vizio only makes LCDs. Plasmas are much more affected by this regulation than LCDs are. So, of course, Vizio is going to be in on the regulation.
Right. Thank you for those comments.
So thank you guys very much. We really appreciate it. Hope that you're going to reconsider this and not adopt the regulation.
Thank you for your comments. Next witness.
Thank you for your time. My name is Terry Morton. I also have a small AV installation company in San Diego, and the television is absolutely integral part of any AV installation. It doesn't matter if it's the display in a home theater or a small TV in the kitchen. The TV is the gateway to entertainment. I'm on a project right now this week that has 7 TVs being installed, and 6 of the TVs in there would not make the list. And I spoke to my client yesterday, and without hesitation, he said, well, that's no problem. I'll just go on the internet and get what I need. I won't have to pay freight, and I won't have to pay tax. And it was that simple, and we battle that every single day in the AV industry. The internet is taking over and is a clear and present threat to our business. But just real quickly, I did some quick numbers on that. If I would have lost that sale for those 6 TVs, we would have lost $1,331 in profit, and the state would have lost, between sales tax and the environmental fee, $1,434 because of that sale would have gone somewhere else. So a regulation like this that would inhibit our clients' decisions on which TV they could have, number one, they won't do it, and number two, it affects us right where we live, unfortunately.
Great. Thank you for those comments.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Peter Fannin. I'm Vice President, Corporate and Government Affairs, Technology Policy, Environment, and Communications. Big title for Panasonic, but I'm the only guy, so big title, lots of work. I have 33 years in the television industry, including 10 years creating and managing the laboratory that tested and evaluated the different systems that led to the standard now being used for digital and high-definition television over the air, cable, satellite, and telcos. I'd like to associate myself on behalf of Panasonic, whose 2,800 employees in California span the South in our manufacturing capacity, our TV manufacturing center in San Diego, through the Panasonic Hollywood Lab, which helps the Hollywood community, the state's center of picture making, which we hope will still be able to survive well with lesser functioning televisions, all the way up through our in-flight entertainment system and communications organization in Lake Forest, and to our R&D center in America here in San Jose, nearby. I'd like to mention only three things. First, to correct the record, there's been multiple mention of the fact that CRTs are more efficient than flat panel displays. That may have been true the first year or two that various flat panel display technologies came into being. It has not been true for the past 5 years or more. The average CRT, the most successful and the most desirable, the highest selling CRTs, Zenith, Sony, RCA, 27 to 36-inch CRTs, gave you a pretty good picture for NTSC and some okay sound. And those typically took 210 to 310 watts. Today's 42-inch and 50-inch plasmas and LCDs get approximately 50% bigger screen size, at least 6 times the picture quality, lots of additional features and capabilities, and still in total run on 110 to barely 200, 193 watts. So it is simply not true that CRTs are more effective. In fact, the sooner we get rid of the old CRTs, the better. And okay, it is a financial interest of ours to sell TVs, but the good news is these are actually, in real dollars, cheaper and more efficient. Second, I'm sorry that the gentleman who actually is investing in technologies for LCD, which my company also makes from 26 to 42 inches, believes that plasmas are history. I'd like to say the plasma is the baby technology, just approaching adolescence and proving every year in sequence over the last 3 in the case of Panasonic that we've improved efficiency in those plasmas by 30% per year, year on year. I can't promise that every year in the future, but when you have a new technology, the last thing you want to do is strangle it before it can grow up, because you keep improving these things once the market is proven. Bottom line, plasmas actually are the growing segment in the market in which they compete, which is typically mid-size and large size, growing at a rate faster than LCDs of the medium size below them. Third and finally, I'd like to simply say something about innovation. I resent the fact that Mr. Fernstrom, I personally resent it given my own history, and my company would resent it if it were a person, resent the fact that he believes energy efficiency is a low priority for TV manufacturers. Those are his words. My company made an environmental statement in 1984, and for the past 15 years has published in great detail multiple examples of how we improve our products year on year, and the impact of those improvements on energy efficiency, water use, chemical use, safety in the environment, and a whole variety of other factors. This is, of course, something a bigger company like mine can typically do relatively easily, but it is completely false, as Mr. Brayson said, that the TV manufacturing companies are not interested in energy priority. So I'd simply like to associate myself with my friend from Sony, and while they really do make some pretty good products, think of Panasonic when you're ready to buy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any additional public comment? Hearing and seeing none, members, any parting words for one another? Very good. Well, again, I'm going to conclude this meeting. Thank you all for your participation, your patience. This ran a lot longer than we expected it to. And members, again, thank you for being here, and especially you, Ms. Hayashi, for bringing the idea to the chair. Thanks.